Are you supposed to be rebuilding your 3/4 ton truck, but instead of doing that, the water department called and said you lost 29,000 gallons of water in a very short amount of time, so they came and shut your meter off because they suspected a leak, so you had to call in an emergency locate so you can replace or repair whatever water leak you've got going on in about a 6-hour time period because of your work schedule? Then this video is for you. You know what I mean? Seems like a pretty specific audience, but they're out there. Step one was to call in emergency locates. I installed this electric line and my fiber optic line. This is my property, by the way. I buried the fiber optic in the same trench as the electric, so one of these two guys is wrong. I don't know which one. Still wrong. A little closer. But the good news is, either way, they are a ways away from where the actual water line is, and we are the last meter on this water line. There's a flush hydrant right there. 4-inch main stops at that flush hydrant, and the water company ran 3/4 from that 4-inch main over to my meter, and then we ran 1 inch from here over to the house. The other fantastic news is all the utilities where I live are absolutely amazing, and the fact that they detected the leak, came down and shut it off, and then gave me a call and a heads up and notification that everything was going on. One, it's still gonna be a little bit bigger bill than I want, but it's a lot smaller than it could have been. They could have easily just left that on and let it run for months without me noticing until a billing cycle came through. So pretty awesome of them to come down and take care of that for me. If you've never called 811 before, it's super simple. You pick up your phone, you dial 811, they're gonna ask you, are the contractor or the homeowner? You're gonna be the homeowner if you're doing it yourself. If you're the contractor, you're gonna be the contractor. That's pretty self-explanatory. And they're gonna say, is this an emergency locate or is this just a regular, I got some digging to do in a couple weeks and I need a locate done? They have a disclaimer of what that emergency locate qualifies as. And if you ask them, does this qualify for an emergency locate? They will say, we're not legally allowed to tell you that. But they will reread the disclaimer to you 27 times instead of just answering your question for the service that you're calling for. Kind of a wild concept. If it is not, in fact, an emergency locate and the utility service deems that it's not an emergency locate, or 811 decides it's not an emergency locate, it's a $1,000 fine, because, you know, why not? I get it. People probably abuse the system. Poor planners, they're not organized. They're like, oh, we forgot to call 811. We're supposed to start this job tomorrow. Just call in an emergency locate. And they're abusing that system. So I understand the fine process, but it is a little frustrating that you can't get a clear-cut answer from the person you're talking to on their hotline. However, loss of service is listed as an emergency locate reason. We have loss of service because our water is shut off because of this leak. So we qualify for that. They came out within, I wasn't home to talk to them, but based on my security camera footage, they came out within a couple hours to get this thing located and marked for us. Whenever we put this meter in, we aimed for the property line. We were the first house up on this little development. There's several houses up here, and well, you're on the neighbor's property right now. We're over on his property just a little bit. So step two, if you're gonna be messing with your neighbor's stuff, make sure you reach out to them. I did. He actually offered to help if I need anything today. So that's gonna be huge if I need a hand. Step three is to actually verify where it's coming out. I called the water department and I said, I'm gonna be flipping your meter on and off if that's okay. Some water departments don't like that. Ours is fantastic. They said, do what you gotta do. And they said they thought it was coming up right here by the meter because water was coming into the meter base itself. So let's see what we get. If you've never been in a water meter before, here you go. So that's the actual meter itself. Clean some of that silt off. And the meters we have here, they have a device in the truck and it's got a receiver on there. And I don't know 100% sure how it works, but he can just drive by. He doesn't have to get out, take the lid off and actually look. He just has to drive close to it and that'll give him the reading. And then the valve is right there. And you can see it's perpendicular. Pipe's running that way. It's perpendicular to the pipe, so it's in the off position. They make water keys with like a T-handle. You can put that in there and turn from the top. But a pair of channel locks or adjustable pliers work okay too, or an adjustable crescent wrench. So she's definitely just wide open somewhere. I just got her barely cracked. See the meter spinning? We'll open her the rest of the way and see if water doesn't come shooting out somewhere. I'm gonna show you this real quick, but the well is filling up and there's silt washing in on the bottom side over here. And then we're gonna turn that back off real quick before I lose it. And then we'll set that lid back on there. That way we don't step in the hole on accident. Now the bummer part of it, it's on your side of the meter, it's on our side of the meter, clearly with where that leak's at. We gotta pay for that, it's our responsibility. 29,000 gallons is what we lost, $372 is what that bill will be. So, which is wild when you think about 29,000 gallons of water. It's amazing how cheap water is. Now somewhere in here, I have a box on my side of the meter with another valve. Where's it at, Mike? You know what I mean? Who knows, really? Who knows where I put that at? Another thing about 811, they're not going to mark your private utility. So if you have your own water line, if you don't put a tracer wire in, like I never do, you're kind of just guessing, but there's something. There's the cap, and you can tell by the perpendicularness here. I'd say she's been smashed down a little. It's all full of silt. So all the way around this, I poured a collar, an effort to keep this from crushing, which did kind of work, but it's obviously a problem trying to dig past it. I can't remember exactly how I did it, so I'm gonna see from this side we can't break it up with that excavator, pull chunks of that concrete out and So it looks like I've got a culvert tile as a riser down there, and then I put that plastic riser on there that went with the lid on top of it, and then I put some Saccrete around that to help lock that in place. I think that's what I did. You know, who knows? It's anybody's mystery at this point. So little bit more hand digging and see if we can get down to the actual pipe. So I'm getting pretty close to where I think it's at. In fact, I feel like if this water comes out, we're gonna be pretty close to exposing it. So we're just gonna dig, I'm gonna scoot back. We're gonna just dig basically a sump over here. So I'm gonna extend this hole this way just a little bit. And we're gonna dig a little bit of a sump and see if we can't bucket some of this water out. I think I feel it with my shovel, where my shovel's at right there. We're going to try to stay on this side of it where that water can run in. So I found the line and my shovel is right in front of it. Keep on working on trying to de-water this hole just a little bit. There it is. I don't know if you guys can see it on camera or not. If you'd have told me perpendicular out of the side of the pipe, I'd have called you a liar. I do not remember doing that. Riser around with the shovel, and then we'll pull that riser out. Seems to be pretty free. Okay. Let's get Just looking at all that up close, everything there looks absolutely awful. We're going to replace every component there. But just to confirm, this is in fact where the leak's at, which just looking at it, you can just tell that's where it's going to be. Let me just turn some water on and see what happens. That'll do her. Even though doing this right now isn't the most fun I've ever had, it's pretty good news that the leak is right here at the meter. Sometimes you might have a leak in the pipe and it could be halfway down a 500-foot run, but because of the way that trench is, that water could push back up that trench and come out at the place where there's the least resistance for that water to come up. We've done it before. We've just had to trench and follow that line until we find the actual leak, but luckily for us, it is right here at the meter. So we'll take a little bit more dirt out, get some of that stuff cleaned up, and we'll start getting that disassembled and a list of what we need, and we can run to town and get our parts. So this is what we've got. That's the 1-inch PEX that goes to the house. This was a stub off I put on in case we ever wanted to add anything on later in the future. This was my own personal valve I could shut off if I needed to turn the house off without turning the meter off. On the bottom side of this, there's a hole. I can feel it. Bottom side of this 90 right here. That looks yummy, huh? Yes. Look at that. Look at the breaking that. It is wild. That'll do it though. If it wasn't going to do it there, it's certainly going to do it there, or anywhere on this. These look terrible. So instead of going through all that valving that I did the first time, that I never ended up using anyway, we're just going straight to PEX. Put some tape on there. Tape's definitely wider than it needs to be, but that's what I got handy. So if you just need pourable water every now and then to kind of clean and wash stuff off, these water extinguishers work great. Especially when you're doing a job where the water's off. We're going to put a riser on this, a different riser than what we had, a little bit bigger. I cut my pipe too short. I should have cut this way more. But either way, it'd be nice if I had a little more play in that pipe so we could get that 90 to come in without a 90 fitting. Like it a lot. We've got our freedom of movement on this line over here now. I can make that happen like that, I think. I don't know, man. I don't like that. Feels like a lot of unnecessary pressure. I'm not gonna do that. We're not gonna do that. I think that's gonna cause me problems. I think instead we'll just 90 into it. Okay. Well, let's turn this valve off. Let's turn the meter on and see what happens here. Well, nothing's shooting out of there. That's good. And if we shoot down in here to the meter, we're not spinning. That is also good. Now we got the valve to the house closed right now. What we're going to do is open it up. Now the meter's going to spin and it's going to run because things like toilets, hot water heaters, stuff like that might need to top itself off. So we're going to get some flow. So big thing to take into consideration, we've had this line open, and without a doubt, some dirt, some mud, some contaminants probably got in there. This is the water we shower with. More importantly, it's the water we drink or cook with. So we want to make sure we flush this. On my house, the way I have it set up, we have a 90-pound pressure at our meter. It runs into my house. It then tees off out to my outdoor hose bibs. So I've got 90 pounds at my hose bibs, which is super handy. And then it runs into my pressure reducer, which is 50 pounds for the house, which I think is kind of the norm for most places. My point is, my faucets, my outdoor faucets, my hose bibs, they happen before the house happens. So what I'll do is I'll go to the lowest one, which is the one down outside the basement. I'll turn that on, crack it open, and just let this thing run for a while. So if there is any mud or contaminants, it'll flush itself out of there before it gets inside the pressure regulator, and even worse, inside our water in the house that we're cooking or drinking with. Just something to take into consideration. It's not like we jammed a whole bunch of mud in there, but better safe than sorry. If your house isn't set up like that, I don't know. Then I'm gonna scrape up a little gravel out of the driveway because I don't have any gravel piles sitting around right now. Last thing I want to check before I start getting this covered up, these go gauges. Depending on where it sits on the fitting, see the go, no go line. So if it's not crimped enough, if we didn't get a good enough crimp, and we put this over the crimping, it'll hold it off like that. It won't let you slide down onto it. But it should go onto it, and then the way I have mine should be just a little gap at the top. Slides down on, slides down on. That one's dirty, but slides down on. And if it's not crimped enough, or the crimp didn't go well, you'll try to put it on and it'll stop you. You won't be able to get your gauge fully seated on there. Not a professional by any means, just a guy who read the instructions on the tool he bought. Should be good enough for what we need to do. Okay, so here's where we're at. Water meter lid is right there. This diameter pipe is the same diameter that this meter base sits on. I'm gonna leave this elevation for now, screw a piece of plywood on the top of it, and order or pick up one of these meter bases. And then when I get that, I can cut that to where it needs to be, put that meter base on top, and it'll look great. The other good thing is now this is on our side of the property line. So we have our own shut off over here. Not that that matters, but if you're gonna do it, might as well do that. We may take a post hole digger in the future and just kind of clean that out. We'll keep an eye on it and see how it goes. Since we've got the utility marks and the machine's sitting here and we're already at a point in the day where it's just too late to start any other projects, we're gonna go ahead and do a little bit of finish work that we never did when we built the house. We've been here almost 10 years now. This pile of dirt's been here for about 10 years. It's acted as a swale, so the water coming off this uphill property from us doesn't wash out down across the driveway. It follows that ditch. The problem is it's just been random, and I gotta weed eat it, and I don't like weed eating, so I just don't do it very often, and it always looks not great. Yeah, it always looks not great. So what we're gonna do, I went ahead and switched buckets. We're just gonna shape this bank a little bit nicer to where I can get my zero turn down it to actually mow this and maintain it a little bit better for everything. gosh, is it dry. I'm getting close to the rough shape that I want. You can kind of see, it's hard to tell when there's not a lot of grade going on. It doesn't show up great on camera, but this elevation kind of runs flat and then it shelves over. And now we're coming down and we're just taking a little bit out right here so that this comes and catches. And if we start backing up here, this actually starts to come up a little bit, which is kind of what we're after, how it comes up a little bit. So I think between here and that pipe, I need to pull a little bit more out so it can get down into it. Just walking it, you can feel when you go down, and then I start to go back up a little bit right here. Right through here, I need to pull a little bit. Getting close though, getting real close. That's looking perfect, right down into there, into the ditch. I think it's gonna work fine. Tell you what a fellow wishes he had. A vibratory 24-inch roller for into that machine so I could beat this bank into submission. Well, let's do it the old-fashioned way with the bucket. If it's your first Captain Kleeman video, we're not normally fixing water lines, but we do something that you and I have in common. We do commonly address when things don't go to plan. So next video, fingers crossed, right? You'll leave me alone for a couple days, right? We'll get the engine put back together on a 3/4 ton truck. So then we can get that project out of the way so we can go back to the backhoe loader conversion project because parts should be done for that. And then, is there a boat I'm building in there somewhere? Supposed to be building a boat, I think. I don't know. You guys can put yourself away today. I got other things to do. All right.